Hey, hello everyone. This is Surya, and I'm the co-organizer of today's webinar. First of all, thank you for joining the session today. Today we have Silva. He's the head of data science in 𝐭𝐚𝐤𝐸, a leading enterprise and SaaS company. So he received his master's from Lathrop University, Australia in 2008, and received his PhD degree in computational mathematics from Lathrop. So today he'll be talking on how to use search analytics for improving content. So by the end of the session, I hope you'll be able to discover various techniques for utilizing analytics from search prompts and use those insights to improve your knowledge-based content. So Selva, the floor is all yours now.
Right. Thank you, Surya. So, welcome everyone. So in this webinar, what we're trying to unearth is in terms of how do we use search analytics to improve your knowledge-based content. So that's the agenda for this webinar, and we'll be covering most in terms of some behavioral shifts that's happening in the consumer side, and then we'll dive deep into what are those search analytics in terms of what kind of information we can actually infer and why we need search analytics and how we can actually use that information to produce the business outcome we wanted. So let's kick off. So the the era of search engines. So what an amazing technology we had in terms of search engine. The Google, they came and dominated the market. There's Bing and DuckDuckGo. The era of the search engines actually given us the tool to actually explore the whole information. It gave us to look for information and then use the information in a meaningful way. And we always use some kind of a keyword in terms of going into the search engine and then trying to find the information that we need. The way the search engine actually worked was we have a search keyword in mind or some kind of a topic in mind which we need to find information about. We go to all the search engine and we type in the search keyword, and then the search engine actually produces a bunch of links. It actually ranks them based on the familiarity and then the content quality, and then using its own algorithm, and then we click through a few of those links to find out whether the article contains the information that we seek. And there's a lot of techniques that the marketing people use in terms of search engine optimization so that it comes on the top of the Google search engine rank. And that's how the search engines actually evolved over a period of time, and this is fine. But having said that, the latest trend, if you look at it, is more about ChatGPT and Gemini and Cloud, those kind of tools, where people are no longer interested in typing a search keyword and finding out the information they need by reading a lot of articles. Instead, they just go to ChatGPT-like interface and type in a question, which are called prompts, and then get the answers right away. And that's the latest trend that's happening, and it is shifting the customer behavior. Okay, that's the important thing. The moment people experience these kind of commercial tools, when they land on your knowledge base, they expect the similar kind of experience. And let's look at how this search engine actually works. They are actually come under something called lexical search. And the lexical search, if you look at any search engine, we use a noun or probably an adjective. We don't type in a long tail keyword like how do I cook a recipe. We don't do that in the traditional sense. 5 or 10 years ago, we usually type in a search keyword, and then it actually evolved. And using those search keywords, Google was able to fine tune its algorithm in producing the results, and more importantly, it was able to predict what's the next word for it. For example, here I typed carrots, and then it's able to predict and give me few suggestions. Are you looking for carrot recipes? Are you looking for carrot nutritions? Are you trying to look at spell carrots in Spanish? Interesting. And it's able to do some autocomplete. And then the most important thing about the lexical search, the characteristics, is it's the output format. It always produces a bunch of links which you have to click through, and we have snippets of all this. Each link's coming up through the SEO, and then you have, as a customer, you have to find out whether that particular article is relevant for you. You decide. Okay, that's the typical characteristics of the lexical search. But having said that, if you look at semantic search, in where this chat GPT like kind of interfaces operate, they don't operate on a paradigm called keywords. They always operate on a paradigm of questions, which are like prompts. And the other characteristic, it doesn't do autocomplete. Instead, it comes with a natural interface of being conversational in nature. So you can have a conversation with something about a topic, and you can actually further dive into the topic. And the Chat GPT like interface is able to preserve the context and then give the information that you need in the format that you like. So you have a choice of how you want the information to be given out. And here's the most important characteristic of semantic search compared to lexical search. You have control over output, which means you can actually customize the way the output information is presented to you. In this scenario, you can actually see I want some kind of an information in a table format. So I'm looking at asking ChatGPT, wish to know more about technical writers ecosystem, and you list based on the prominent cities in table format. So table format is the key. So you have, as a consumer of this search, you have control over your output. So in summary, so if you look at the parameters in lexical search and GenAI powered search, the knowledge discovery always happened through keywords in lexical search, while in GenAI kind of a tool, it's always through prompts. You don't always have to provide a context in terms of the lexical search, but in Gen AI, if you provide more, then you get more accurate answers. Here's the other piece of interface in terms of the user experience. So in lexical search, if you type in a keyword, it produces output in milliseconds because it's already indexed. It doesn't have to generate anything. All you have to do is it's already indexed, it has to serve you. But in the GenAI powered search, it has to generate a response. So it always takes time. So you probably remember in the ChatGPT days when ChatGPT 3 was rolled out, it took a considerable amount of time, 3 to 5 seconds, or in some cases, it produced even 10 seconds to generate a response, depending upon the prompt. So there's always a time element. You got to wait. And the matching algorithm based on the lexical search is to use the keywords, and it uses some fuzzy logic. But in GenAI, it's all about semantic matching. Okay, and the GenAI powered search produces accurate response, but in lexical search, it only produces it gives you a list of articles that contains that keyword. That's the different paradigm shift. That's a summary. So let's dive into what is the semantic matching. Okay, so the semantic matching, it actually works by finding similarity among terms. So to give you a perfect example, let's say in your knowledge base, you have written a lot of content describing United States. So in every aspect of your knowledge base, you have put in, you have written United States, about United States. Let's say you talk about the founding fathers, legislation, capital, the culture, and you written everything, but you always use the word called United States. Let's say somebody come to your knowledge base and then type in a keyword called America, and you know that United States is synonymously called America, but your lexical search will not produce a result because the word America is not present in your content. And that's exactly where the semantic matching come in. If you use a semantic search, which is powered by GenAI tools, it will exactly know that the United States and America are actually semantically matching. And it able to produce the relationship. And it semantic matching actually uses a technique called text embeddings, and it uses a method, a mathematical similarity metric called cosine similarity, and that's how it actually matches the synonyms perfectly, excuse me, and it's able to pull relationship among words. And that's how the semantic matching actually works under the hood. Let's look at an example here. This is our own ADAI from Document 360. If you go to docs.document 360 and type in a question like what is Document 360 and its pricing plan, it's able to generate a response. Let's look at how it actually produces that response. And to strengthen the trust in the response, the ADAI gives you a list of citations, basically the source articles, how this response has been generated. Let's dive into how this gets produced. So if you look at the first line, of the generator response, it comes from the second cited article. And in fact, the second cited article is documents is getting started, and it comes from the second line of that article. And the second line and third line comes from the plans and pricing article. Okay, and it pulls out the first paragraph content. But the last line of the generated content is pulled from upgrading from a trial version is the article name, and it actually pulled from the last paragraph of the article. Okay, so what it's trying to do, it's going to semantically match the specific content chunks present in the different set of article relating to that question. And what this GenAI tool is able to do is it's able to stitch together all this piece of information from relevant information from different article that is cohesive and able to have a flow, information flow, and generates a response for you. So it is perfect. So it's able to produce a, so if you read this response, it's very neat and clean. Now I understood what you mean by documenticity and what are this pricing plan. So we offer 5 different plan here. Okay, so it's very clean. So here's the main agenda for this talk. What is a lexical search analytics, and how people have already been using the lexical search analytics. So what we're trying to do is, so when somebody comes to your knowledge base and type in a search keyword, we actually, most of the tool vendors, they actually capture that keyword in the backend, and they actually store them. So basically, it falls under 2 buckets. The first is for the keywords that actually produce a result, and for the keywords that your lexical search could not produce an article for. So that comes under the bracket of no results found or unanswered keywords, things like that. Okay, and the lexical search, there's only so much thing. There's only few things you can actually do. First is you can actually understand the volume of search coming to your knowledge base. Basically, how many search keywords actually entered in your knowledge base search, and you can also look at this volume of search trend over time. If you have integrated Google Search Console or Google Analytics, and then you can actually marry up with any of the knowledge base analytics you have, then you have rich kind of search analytics. But here is the problem with search analytics. You will never know the intent. You exactly know the keywords, but you'll never know the intent of what your customers want from that keyword. Okay, so the way the technical writers like ours use the lexical search analytics is to create an impact is through going through each of those keywords where your knowledge lexical search didn't produce a output, pretty much list them, and then you can actually scrutinize what kind of keywords I do not have an article for. If somebody types, if, let's say I assume that, let's say you create an article about single sign-on, and then people coming and then typing in your knowledge base lexical search as Azure AD, or Open IT and things like that. Probably you might not have an article for. So that shows that people are not discovering your SSO article based on the SSO keyword, but through some other technology keyword that you have. So you can get the insight and you can actually create new articles based on the no results found keywords. It's a very simple and elegant way to do. The next is you want to find out the top performing articles. So if you have a lexical search and you put it through your search analytics, you exactly know what are the articles that's top performing, and based on that, you can actually you do a lot of search engine optimization in terms of positioning your knowledge base article to be discovered by the search engine. Okay, and most importantly, with the lexical search, you can also cross correlate with the customer feedback. For example, if there's a lot of keywords that's coming in and you're receiving a lot of customer feedback on that particular keyword, you know that the importance of that keyword. Okay, and if your customer support team is actually using some keywords to find an article to help some of the customers, you know that your article is actually adding value in terms of business impact. Okay, so that's the full scope of how the lexical search analytics actually work. And let's dive into a new demo, and then where I'll show you how to use the lexical search analytics with our own example. So here is an example of this is one of the projects we have, and here you can actually see the lexical keyword. So if I go into docs.document360, and then I type in a keyword, something like ChatGPT. Okay. So we have few other things. See whether it doesn't pick the right articles. It actually picked up the word chat, and it actually giving you that. It doesn't give you any kind of chat GPT. So if I give like GDPR, so it's able to produce that GDPR compliant thing. And this is the keyword I'm talking about in terms of the lexical search. And then if you come to the dashboard, and here what you can actually see is we actually show you how many total searches you have on your knowledge base, which is a very important kind of a metric for a technical writer, and also for showcasing the business impact. So 4,700 plus lexical searches actually happened on this month from February, okay, on this platform. And out of which you can actually see this 4,200 of them actually successful, and this 500 of them is not successful. And you can actually look at the trends. There is a particular day on Feb 16, the search volume actually peaked up. Maybe this is the day where we release something, or we can actually cross correlate with any product launch or marketing launch and things like that. So that is a useful information for a technical writer to actually understand the trends of the search. And the most important thing in terms of the lexical search is this. So here we actually list you the keywords and its frequency. Okay, look at the keyword SSO. It's been used 38 times. Okay, and then the widget API, you can actually see the volume of searches here. So it's very important. So now with this kind of search analytics, you're able to correlate with the customer feedback, and also from the customer support ticket, how much of the SSO related customer support tickets being raised, whether this is actually helping the customer to discover the new information. Is there any kind of knowledge gaps exist in your articles? You can use that information to further strengthen and enhance the content you have. Okay, the best part of lexical search analytics is this no result found. For any kind of keywords that you put in, if you do not have an article written for, or you don't have any content for, obviously this comes under this bucket of no results found. So you can actually see a lot of people type in Visio, breadcrumb, Jira, Postman, which you do not have any content for. This gives an idea to the technical writer that people are actually searching for something which you do not have content for. So you can actually use this information in two ways. The first is you need to create a new content addressing this knowledge gap that's existing in your knowledge base. The second thing is maybe that's something you cannot write because there is a feature gap in your product. So you can actually take that and then pass it on to the product manager so they can actually innovate on that feature, or maybe they try to untangle what they mean by those kind of keywords, and what kind of features actually helps to be built. And you can also take this kind of no results found and then cross correlate with your customer support tickets. How many of those tickets fall on the keywords where people actually asked about how do I integrate something with VCO, or how do I integrate Jira with Document 360? So you can actually cross correlate, and in that way you can actually address any kind of knowledge um, gaps, and more importantly how your knowledge base actually plays a pivotal role in terms of reducing the customer support ticket coming to your product support. Okay, it's very important information. On the top we also give you a nice little chart, and more important thing about this search analysis is this trends. So if you can take all these keywords and then you can actually plot it over a period of time, you exactly know what kind of keywords were trending over a period of time for your knowledge base. Okay, so very important to actually know that information, to know the shift in the customer behavior, what kind of things people are actually searching for. The important characteristics is, let's say you released a new feature or you've written a new article and you see a lot of search volume coming in because you might have released a new feature. People are actually trying to explore those new features, so that's why they are ranking. And then that also gives a feedback to your product team and the engineering team and the product owner of how well the new feature is being perceived by the existing customers. Okay, so it's very powerful in terms of the lexical search analytics. So now we are diving into the main aspect of GenAI search analytics, where we actually store the prompt. So if you use any kind of GenAI tools, like we have Eddie or any kind of chat GPT like interface on your knowledge base. Then obviously the tool vendors or the platform providers, they actually store all these prompts in the backend, and through which you can mine so much information. And that's the crux of this webinar. What can you do with that kind of a prompt that they actually entered? If you look at the lexical search, there is no way for a technical writer about understanding the user intent. Okay, and it's in the history of technical writing. This is the first time that as a technical writer you can actually understand the intent of the user intent only through prompts. Okay, that's exactly where the GenAI search engine search analytics actually shine, because through the prompt you can actually understand the user intent better. What are they actually looking for? What kind of information are they after? Okay, and what do they intend to do with their information? Uh, and through which you can actually address any existing knowledge gaps in your knowledge base. It's a very simple thing to do. Okay, and then we'll dive into what kind of metrics you are looking at in terms of Gen AI assistant. But let's look at good outcomes. If you know the intent better, then you actually produce the right content. Okay, and it actually helps you to increase the customer satisfaction, more importantly the self-service rate. So you can actually deflect a lot of customer support ticket at the first point of entry, or even once the self-service rate goes up, which means the customers are able to troubleshoot all the issues with your product or services by themselves. Okay, that's the power of using Gen AI assistant analytics. And the most important thing for technical writers is, once you have all your prompts from asked from your customers, then you actually look at what type of question have been asked. Okay, and why are these questions have been asked. Then you're able to understand, um, and then you can also classify the questions on how many of them are what questions, where you need to have a lot of informational content, and how of them are for why questions. Basically they want to understand why we built it, or the purpose or the scope of the product feature or the service that you provide. And how many of them are how questions. If there's a how questions, people are trying to figure out uh, a standard operating procedure or a step-by-step guide or some kind of a user manual. If there's a lot of how to questions that's coming in, which means you need to strengthen, that's where you got to play in that. Okay, and classifying this question into these three kind of typical category, as a technical writer you know where to focus. Okay, which is a very important thing that you can actually get from the Gen AI powered search. And the next crucial information is, what if you know how much of citation is actually used in terms of producing a response, you know what kind of content is very critical for you. Okay, and you know what kind of content is have to be kept up to date, and more importantly what kind of content needs higher accuracy. So that's very important, okay, for a technical writer to actually know. And the moment you know which information needs to be updated, is need to be current, then you know what where to focus. Okay, because that is very powerful for a technical writer to actually know. The first technique I want to introduce is called something called topical analysis. So what we're trying to do is we take all the prompts that's entered, and then we do something called clustering of all the prompts, okay, into a general theme, something called as a topical analysis. Let me give you a perfect example. Let's say people are typing in, coming into your knowledge base and then typing questions related to your pricing. Okay, some people will type what are the pricing plans available, or the other question could be what are the features present in this plan. Do you support a monthly or an annual subscription on this plan? Okay, and if you look at these three questions, they're all related to pricing, so you can actually bucket them. So that's called topical analysis. So topical analysis give you an insight for a technical writer, what kind of topics is trending and where you need to focus. Okay, so if you look at it, you might, the moment you roll out chat GPT like search on your knowledge base, your knowledge base search is going to explode, and you have all these prompts coming in. Doing the topical analysis is the fundamental thing you need to do. Okay, the second is let's say for all the questions that's typed in, I'm pretty sure some of the questions your knowledge base assistant or a AI search might produce a I do not know response. We call them as unanswered questions. Okay. And if you cluster all those unanswered questions, and if you do a topical analysis, you know what kind of topics you lack information. Okay. So that's very important. And then the third aspect is, since we are giving citations, if we can find out what are those top cited articles, you can actually identify that what are the articles that needs to be always kept up to date. Okay. And the most important thing with this AI technology is if people are customers are actually leaving feedback, dislikes or comment on a particular response of your Gen AI, you can actually use that feedback, and then you can actually fine tune your AI response over a period of time so that it can actually produce deterministic response. Okay. And that's very powerful. And then the second kind of search analytics you can actually do on a Gen AI is called usage analysis. So basically it tells you about the total searches along with other statistics, and then you can actually use this usage metrics in terms of reporting to your manager, or producing some business outcome metrics for your C-level executives. And then you can also focus on how much of this is being utilized. To give you a perfect example, let's say you're having a lexical search in your knowledge base and you also have a GenAI search. And if you focus on the utilization, you can actually look at how many search comes from lexical search, how many search come through a GenAI search. Then you can actually understand the shift in user behavior. If more people are using your GenAI, which means your customer needs are also evolving. So at some point in time, people are actually abandoning lexical search. They're probably using your GenAI search as a default search. So you can actually if you focus on the utilization of this search capability, then understand the customer shift in the customer behavior shift. Let me give you a live demo on how this actually works. So if you look at for Eddy, the Eddy search analytics, so I'm in the analytics page of Eddy AI, and if I click Eddy AI, and probably it gives you a bit of a high level idea about how much searches actually happened. So for the last month, there's apparently 1,400 plus searches happened. Okay, this is a test project and we are running it, and out of which 1,000 plus are successful and 355 are unsuccessful, which means AD was not able to produce a response. It always said, I do not know. Okay. And we also received 44 feedbacks on those 1,400 plus searches. And here is the usage metrics. So if you can actually see on this particular day in 14th of May, AD produced 81 no result response. Okay, we can actually dive into what actually happened. But if you look at the other trends, it was able to produce a lot more successful searches. So the AD produced no result because of the type of the question that's been asked. Okay, and we also received 44 feedbacks, out of which 24 are likes, 20 are dislikes. Okay, I'm just giving you this sample project we have actually created. And here is the important thing about the topical search. So if you look at uh, popular searches, so this is the topical analysis on all the prompts that's been entered. Lot of things are we are showing only the top five. So this the top five topics for that particular month is document basis, and then people are actually interested in extension and features. People are actually interested in finding variables in docs import, and then article management and SSO configuration. If I click on SSO configuration, then you actually find out how many questions, what kind of questions being typed. So people are actually typing how to configure SSO, um, SSO integration, how do I configure Okta, and these are the questions that's been typed. Okay, which is very useful. If I type article management, you can actually see a variety of questions that's been typed. How do I create an article? How do I restrict article? Interesting. How do I add custom labels to an article? So these are the topics that's related to article management. So which means as a technical writer, you know where to focus on. And through this topical analysis, you can actually dive into what kind of prompts that is being clustered together to form this topic. Okay, extremely important for us to know as a technical writer. Okay, so close. Then what we can also do is we can do the topical analysis on the no results found or unanswered questions. So there's a lot of questions where AD is not able to answer. Let's look at some of those things. For example, coding and programming. So these are the questions that people actually type in where AD produced a response. Yeah, of course. These are very vague in nature. Um, and then feedback and suggestions. So how do I make project documentation SRS use case? So these are the things that AD was not able to produce. Okay, some might be relevant, some might not be. So you can actually look at and then actually ignore things that is not relevant for your use case. Okay, and the most important thing is the citation analysis, which I've talked about. So if you look at it, the most referenced article is why do we build document 360. So this article has been for all this 1400 plus searches that happened, out of which 195 answers been produced using this article. So you know the importance of this article. And intercom is a very important article, and also for October 2023 this is probably the release note that's been used, and also the getting started guide, of course. And in on the top we also give you aspects to excuse me, find out how many of them actually disliked. So we give you options to scroll through all the uh, questions that's been asked, so you get a bit of an idea about all the prompts that's been entered and things like that. So it definitely gives you a holistic perspective of all those things. Okay. um, yeah, so that's what I want to cover in terms of this demo. So in summary, the the keyword based search is based on keywords, and while the GenAI powered is through prompts, the length of the query can be a shorter one. So when I say shorter, it's usually the keywords, but in prompt based, the query length is longer. Okay, and what we try to do with this analytics is that in the lexical search we group by keywords, but here it's not applicable. But here we do a lot of topical analysis and unanswered question analysis and citation analysis. Okay, in terms of producing the outcome with the GenAI powered search analytics, you can actually identify the knowledge gaps. Why? Because you know the intent better. Okay, and you exactly can correlate the customer support tickets topics with trending topics in the knowledge base. So extremely important for you to know to produce, to show the value proposition of technical writing. Okay, here is an important aspect. So coming to the change management, you probably might have an offering where you have a lexical search and also have a GenAI powered search. And for a technical writer, you need to combine these two analytics. Okay, and that actually gives you a lot more um, insight into the shift in customer behavior, and more importantly what kind of information they're actually searching for. And you can actually look at the usage analytics, how much search is done through lexical and how much through GenAI. If the GenAI powered search is getting a longer a lot of traction in terms of the usage, probably it notes a shift in the customer behavior. Okay, uh, obviously you can actually focus on the customer behavior. Also your it also gives you the shift in the customer persona. Okay, if there's emerging needs, if the young generation of people are actually coming to your knowledge base and then using ChatGPT like search, obviously you have to cater for those kind of audience. Okay, and then you also need to look at how we can actually bring in terms of Gen AI powered search, how we can actually bring in chatbots, and then you're talking about LLM agents and things like that into the picture. And the chatbot analytics is a whole plethora of topic we can actually cover. Probably we can actually do in the next webinar. The chatbot analytics is very interesting, where the technical writer actually unearth even more new insights. Okay, and thank you so much. That's pretty much the thing I want to cover.